Such a nice day out here. Oh, nice. A penny. Not your fares there, mister. That there's my penny. Well, I found it, so it's mine. Nuh-uh. If you want this penny, you better fight me for it. Alright. That's how we do it out here in Dade County. No. It was on tails. Yo! What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Daytime Cheese. And we are finally at week 1 of the college football season. Can you believe it? We have finally made it. Yes, there was college football last week. But guess what? Now it's for real. Now every team is playing. The Hurricanes, the Ducks, the Buckeyes, the Longhorns. Everyone is finally playing. We are officially back once and for all. The wait is over. And we have a lot of games to talk to about today. We have actually 5 different games that I want to talk to about. The first, I think it's the biggest game of the week. And that's coming from a Miami fan who realistically should say it's Notre Dame Miami. But it's Texas versus the Ohio State Buckeyes at Columbus, Ohio, at Ohio Stadium. I mean, this game is going to be insane. It's number 1 versus number 3 in Columbus. It's an SEC versus Big Ten matchup. It is the rematch of the semifinals from last year. And of course, everyone will be watching earlier to say goodbye to Lee Corso off of College Game Day. He had such a great career. I said it in my last video, but I also want to extend a shout out to him. He made me fall in love with College Game Day as a whole. But let's talk about this game. Obviously, these two teams are going to be good this year. There is no doubt in anyone's mind that either of these teams won't make the college football playoffs. It would be a shock if one of them misses it. However, a lot of people seem to be picking Ohio State in this matchup, which I understand. They're the reigning national champions. Why would you go against them? They should be the team that you're picking for, especially a game in Columbus. But you're going against the fact that the AP has Texas as the number 1 team in the country for a reason. They didn't put Ohio State number 1. If they would have done that, I understand it. But Texas is number 1 in the country for a reason. And I think it's because Arch Manning and the rest of that Texas team is able to run the table. They have the talent to. They have the talent to go into Columbus week 1 and beat Ohio State. I mean, that's why you're ranked number 1 at the preseason. You haven't shown anything, and they still believe you're the best. There's a reason for it at the end of the day. Now, if you watch my Pickem video, link in the description. If you have not watched that, it will also be in the cards and probably at the end of this video. I did pick Texas to win this game. And the score prediction was also given in that game, in that video, because it was asking how many total points I believed would be in that game. And I said 45. So score prediction, I do predict Texas winning this game 24-21 in a close game in Columbus, but I have Texas coming out on top. Another game that was in that pick'em, if you watch that video, again, link in the description, was the LSU Tigers versus the Clemson Tigers. Another top 10 matchup happening this weekend. And I picked Clemson to win that matchup. For multiple reasons. I do think Dabo Swinney is a better coach than Brian Kelly. I do think Kate Klubnik is better than Garrett Nussmeier. But the main reason I had to pick Clemson over LSU has such bad history with Week 1. I mean, I don't remember the last time I saw LSU win Week 1. It may have been back in 2019 with, again, one of the greatest college football teams ever assembled in the 2019 LSU Tigers. So you're telling me that this team that is very historically bad on Week 1 is going to go and beat the number 4 team in the country, who I believe may be the ACC champion, is almost a lock for the ACC championship, and may even go as far as the national title in Week 1? I don't see it happening. Look, I really don't. Clemson is too strong of an opponent for Week 1 LSU, and they always get scheduled against tough opponents. I get it, but they never win them. Until LSU wins that Week 1 game, I'm gonna keep betting against them. There is no doubt in my mind that this cannot be a good game. I do think both teams are very talented, but I think historically, it's hard to choose LSU in this situation. And so I'm going to pick Clemson 31-27 in this matchup. So this next matchup, to me, is the most interesting matchup of this entire week, and maybe even the entire season. This matchup that I'm going to speak about next was not in the Pickem's video, because it's very low on some people's radars. And I know some people will be talking about it, some people won't. They don't really care about this matchup. But I'm talking about number 8, Alabama, going into Doak Campbell Stadium to take on the Florida State Seminoles. Now, you may be asking, Daytime, why is this a interesting matchup? Alabama's going to smoke FSU. FSU's not going to be good this year again. Are they? What was the problem with FSU last season? Why did they go 2-10? Was it DJ? Was it Norvell? Was it their OC? Was it the rest of the team? I can't tell you. And of course, I do think FSU is not going to go 2-10 again. That's absolutely not going to happen. I think they made excellent moves in the transfer portal to not go 2-10 again, especially with Thomas Castellanos. But are they going to be good again? And Alabama was a team that, if you would have told me that they're missing the playoffs 2 years ago, I would have said that you were crazy. I would have said that team is way too strong for them to miss the playoffs. And yet, they did. They were the first team out. They shouldn't have been. Should have been Miami or some other team. They had 3 losses. I'm not going to argue that part. But they were out. So it's a very interesting matchup because it's 2 teams that were at the top of the college football world 2 years ago, and both of them slid. Now, I don't think Kalen DeBoer is a good coach either. I think he had that one season at Washington with Michael Penix Jr. and that entire Washington lineup. And I think that's what carried them over, so Alabama would want him. But Alabama has the strength of, it's Alabama. It's going to bring in recruits, no matter who's head coach. So, in this DeBoer era, he has that advantage, but he hasn't done anything with it. So this is an interesting matchup because what teams are we going to see? Are we going to see FSU's last year's team that went 2-10 and did not score 24 points on any school that was not FCS? Or do we see 2023 FSU, who was dominant throughout? I think their closest 2 games were to Miami and to Boston College. Those were their closest 2 games. And which Alabama do we see? The Alabama that 2 years ago beat Georgia to the bricks and made the playoffs. Or do we see the Alabama who's the number 1 team in the country losing to Vanderbilt? And not only Vanderbilt, but 2 other teams, and also getting blown out by Oklahoma in their own stadium. Which Alabama do we get? That's the real question to me this season about these 2 teams. Who do we get? And I predict that FSU will climb I do think FSU is going to be a lot better than last season. 2-10 is not even their floor this season. And Alabama will also do well. But who takes the higher ground in this matchup? I think FSU has done enough work in the transfer portal to get this upset done. Especially in Doak Campbell Stadium, I think they have it. Are able to do it. I think they have the talent to do so. But I can't pick FSU. I can't. FSU just has had such struggle recently. And I can't tell. It's Norvell. I can't tell if it was last year a fluke. I can't tell if it was just Norvell being a bad coach. I can tell you Alabama was DeBoer being a bad coach. Because their roster last year was pretty decent. But they were the first team out. They were number one in the country at one point. They beat Georgia. They were not a bad team by any means. And I know it's an entirely new season, but that's all we have to go off at the moment. So I gotta take Alabama in this matchup. I think it'll be closer than most people expect. I guess a 2-possession game at most. I think Alabama wins by around 9 to 10 points in a game going around 17 to 27. Now, it's time. Alright. Now it's time for the Ducks. The Ducks take on FCS champion runner-up Montana State this weekend, Saturday, August 30th at Autzen Stadium. I have some stats here that from previous years or from other reasons. Now, neither team has been yet to name their starting quarterback. Most people believe Oregon's will be Dante Moore. However, I was not able to find anything online about Montana State starting quarterback. It was between two guys at the end of the day. It was between the Stanford transfer, Justin Lamson, or redshirt freshman, Chance Williams. I don't think either of these are going to be good enough to beat the Ducks. I'm being honest. I'm not going to say it's going to be a blowout. We saw what happened last week with Idaho State and UNLV. And we saw what happened last year with Oregon. So I can't say it's going to be a blowout. But just some of the stats of some of the guys we have this year is very interesting. Let's look at Dante Moore. Dante Moore in 2024 did not do much. He always sat behind Dylan Gabriel. Played one matchup. He was 7 for 8 in that game for 49 yards. However, his 2023 campaign was pretty special at UCLA. He was 114 for 231 with 1,610 passing yards, 11 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. And on the ground, he had 45 carries for negative 84 yards. Now, that's also counting sacks. Doesn't seem that great, but that's a good baseline. I think that's a good baseline to go off of. I think UCLA 2 years ago was very run-heavy as well, not giving Moore the chance to do all that. So 1,600 yards on the season. For a team that ran the ball a lot, I don't think it's that bad. Now, I don't love that he only threw 11 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. It's not great. But we've got him for a reason. He is one of the most talented quarterbacks I think that there is currently in college football. He has an arm. He is such a good dual threat. But yeah, and now let's look at the running backs. So, Mekhi Hughes, transfer from Tulane, 2024, had 265 carries for 1,400 yards, 15 touchdowns, did not fumble the ball a single time, 19 receptions for 176 yards and 2 touchdowns. So this dude is a pure runner. Having over 1,000 yards in the season is not an easy feat. And this dude did it. At Tulane. A team that wouldn't have that great of an offensive line. Now, behind the Ducks' offensive line, I'm very interested to see what this guy could do. He's only a junior after all. We have at least a year with him if he doesn't decide for the draft. And I think he could be very good on Dan Lanning's offense. Dan Lanning loves to mix both the pass and the run. I remember there was an episode of Ducks versus them against Ohio State where Dan Lanning compared football to boxing. And when you box, the jab is your main punch. It's what you throw the most. And he said that Oregon's jab is running the football. So I really do think Mekhi Hughes will get a lot of use at Oregon this year. Now, we have, who was RB2 last year? We had Noah Whittington. 110 carries for 540 yards, 6 touchdowns. Again, did not fumble once. Through the air, he had 24 receptions for 136 yards and 2 touchdowns. Which is not a bad stat line for an RB2. Especially since Jordan James was getting the majority of the reps. Whittington had some very big plays last season. Very good in the punt return as well. I think he's going to be very strong against Montana State. Now, Montana State running back Adam Jones was also pretty decent last year. 184 carries for 1,152 yards, 14 touchdowns, 21 receptions, 243 yards, 1 touchdown, and he did not fumble the ball once either. So I think this is going to be a very good ground game for both of these teams. Now, the talent is there on Oregon's D-line to stop Adam Jones. But will they get it done? Oregon in the past also has struggles with week 1. But luckily for them this year, they face an FCS school, which will be an easier opponent than a top 10 school like LSU. But will they struggle? I hope not, but I think so. Now, through the air, Oregon got a major injury during the preseason, with Evan Stewart going down and being out for the remainder of this season. Now, Evan Stewart was one of the key pieces to Oregon's offense last year, which was so electric. He is so fast. He is such a speedster. He is so good at getting run after catch, and he goes down before the season starts. So now Oregon's wide receiver 1 is 5-star recruit Dakarian Moore. He is a 5-star receiver out of Duncanville, Texas, and in his senior season he had 74 receptions for 1,460 yards and 19 touchdowns. That is not a bad stat line at all. We also have Lowe, who last season, not playing much, was at the University of Oregon last season. He had 21 receptions for 205 yards and a touchdown. That's almost 10 yards a reception. I think Oregon's going to be very good through the air this season. I think you have a talented quarterback in Dante Moore throwing the ball with a very strong arm. And you have the talented receivers to catch it. Now, does it suck that Evan Stewart's gone for this season? Absolutely. But it's not the end of the world. I think Oregon has the depth to be able to win the rest of this game. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, let's look at this. Mateo Uyunglele, one of the best edge rushers in college football. Last year had an outstanding season. 38 total tackles, 24 of those being solo tackles, 1 pass defended. He had 10.5 sacks, leading the Oregon defense in sacks. He forced 2 fumbles, and he had that game-winning interception against Wisconsin. Mateo's not a player you want to mess around with. He is a dog off the edge. And I'm not sure if Montana State's O-line will be able to handle it. Now, we also have returning middle linebacker Bryce Betcher. Last season, he had 94 total tackles, 50 of those being solo tackles, 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and an interception. Bryce Betcher coming back is a very, very big win for Oregon. He is one of the best middle linebackers I've seen in a long time. He plays well in zone. He plays well in man. He's able to rush if he needs to. He is such a talented player that it is going to be difficult for that Montana State quarterback, whoever it may be, to find space to throw that ball. Now, who will that quarterback be throwing to? Well, that will be junior wide receiver Taco Dowler. Last season, he had 38 receptions for 597 yards, 11 touchdowns, and he also had 4 carries for 17 yards. Now, granted, he was the leading receiver for this team. They ran the ball a lot more than they passed it. But I'm not sure if they will be able to against this Oregon defense. This Oregon defense what they thrive off of, their main bread and butter is their front seven. Mateo Uyunglele, Tuale Toli, Bryce Betcher. It's going to be difficult for Montana State to run this ball against Oregon. And so our prediction I have is that Montana State will not have over 200 yards on the ground in this game. They will not. Maybe not even total. But they will certainly not have 200 yards on the ground. The Oregon front seven will stuff their running, and they will start running away. Now, like I said, this won't be a blowout. Oregon has had struggles in the past, week 1, especially last season. And we're looking at the first look at Dante Moore in 2 years. I can't say this is going to be a blowout. I said it last year. I said Oregon was going to beat Idaho by 70. But it's not happening. Now, I can't give the Ducks a loss here. Although they have all those struggles, it would be very difficult for me to pick an FCS school to take down a Power 5 school. And so, I have the Ducks putting up 31 and Montana State putting up 14. Now, you may say, that is a blowout. Maybe it is. But you know what a blowout should be against an FCS school, no matter who it is? If you're one of the top 10 teams in the country, you should be winning that game by at least 50. At least. You should be putting in your second strings by the third quarter. And I think this game won't go out of hand until the fourth. I think once Dante Moore starts getting all his stuff together, is when the Ducks will come back and take it. But hey, that's just my take. Now, for the final game, there is a very, very special guest. I would love to introduce you all to my very good friend and Miami Hurricanes content creator, Coach Coop. So, we're here to talk about Miami football with the Coach Coop. So,
what's up, everybody?
We have a big game for Miami coming out this week. On Sunday, August 31st, a top 10 matchup between the Notre Dame Fighting Irish and the Miami Hurricanes. This is going to be a very interesting matchup because it is two teams that realistically lost a lot to the draft and to graduation. But they're still ranked very high, which I'm happy about. I do think they both got good additions to the portal. But this is going to be a game that is going to be decided, in my opinion, by experience. I have made my pick on my season prediction. You guys know I picked Miami to win over Notre Dame. I did say experience would be the key to help Miami win. And I believe Carson Beck's experience and Fletcher's and the entire offensive line and the defense and all of that experience will help us at the end of the day to get the W. Because at the end of the day, CJ Carr is going to make freshman mistakes. Everyone does. So, let's talk about how this game is looking to go, in the fact that this game is looking like it's going to be a very rush-heavy game. Obviously, Notre Dame has the best running back in the league, as much as I hate to say it, in Jeremiah Love. Miami has a very strong ground game. Very strong ground game with Mark Fletcher and Jordan Lyle, and a very strong offensive line as well. I feel like this game is going to be decided on the ground, in the trenches. The big plays will go overhead, but I said this in the previous segment, and I'll just repeat it here. In an episode of, sorry to bring Oregon into this, but in an episode of Ducks versus Them, Dan Lanning was talking about specifically comparing football to boxing and how the jab punch, which is the most effective and most used punch, is the run game. And so I think the jab has to be strong for both of these teams in order for them to play well.
And look, I think sometimes the common sense approach is the way that you should go about attacking this game, and that is Notre Dame is going to want to run the football. C.J. Carr, nobody really knows what to expect out of him. This is a guy that's not completed a pass at the collegiate level in a live game, so I think that there's no reason to overthink it here. I think if you're Corey Heatherton, Miami's new defensive coordinator, you focus in on stopping that run game, and then you can adjust accordingly, right? If C.J. Carr comes out and this guy's not rattled in the crazy atmosphere at Hard Rock, because it's going to be wild. It's going to be absolutely insane there. They can make all the attendance jokes they want, but look back to 2017. It's not about focusing on the pass, but that's the last time we played y'all, and it was packed. It's going to be packed in this one. You can adjust accordingly if C.J. Carr comes out and he looks pretty good. I think there's a reason that they went with him. He's known as more of the, at practice, of course, spring and fall, the more explosive downfield passer compared to Minchie, which is how I think that helped him kind of win the starting job. That way they have a run game there with Love, and then Carr can send it downfield. But I think that you're right with running the ball. Both of these teams might try to focus on what they do best offensively, which is going to be pounding the rock early in this one, and you adjust from there.
Now, the other interesting thing is that Carson Beck at Georgia was in a very air raid offense. I mean, you could just see it by the numbers. He had almost 450 pass attempts last season. He had over 3,400 yards, 3,485 to be exact. So how is he going to adjust with this offense that is no longer going to be that air raid offense, that will be more of a mixed offense? That's the interesting part with Beck. And looking at some of his other stats, he had 28 passing touchdowns last season to 12 interceptions. Now, a lot of people look at those interceptions and look at, that's terrible. I personally don't see much of a problem with one turnover a game. Obviously, it would be great to have 0 turnovers a game. But that's not going to happen. Look, the defense could outplay you, especially against a good team like Notre Dame. The defense will outplay you at one point. You'll see something wrong. You'll see something and you will throw an interception. But having 1 per game isn't bad. If you put it up too much, it'll make a difference. But 1, it's about the same as a switch at half. So, as long as
the thing is...
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that people tend to, cherry pick specific stats to try to fit their narrative. And the Carson Beck disrespect is just through the roof right now, and it absolutely blows my mind. Would we like to see those interception numbers be lower? Yes. Can we, talk about drop passes from Georgia receivers and, some other issues going on at Georgia offensively? We could. But the reality is he's here now at Miami. He's playing under Shannon Dawson, who I think can build this offense around him. We saw what he did with Cam Ward, and let's not forget the Cam Ward disrespect that we saw before he came to Miami. Miami overspent. Shouldn't have brought this guy in. He has a fumbling problem. He ends up going number 1 in the NFL draft. And honestly, Miami might have lost 2 of their last 3 games, but it was not due to the offense.
And in my opinion...
so I think that Carson Beck comes in here, and I'm excited. I think we see the best version of Carson Beck. Personally, I'm not really concerned about the injury. I believe that they would have had a medical team evaluate him, and they believe that he would be ready to go. And here we are. He is. He's starting in this Notre Dame game. The biggest thing is, and I'm sure you're probably going to get to this, the receiver position. A lot of transfer portal guys, a lot of guys that might be going into year 2 or 3 but haven't seen a significant amount of snaps in live games at Miami. Will the timing be there? The chemistry? But overall, I've been very vocal in saying I'm happy with the Beck pickup, and I think that he's gonna play very well this season.
And look, for me personally, I would prefer a receiver coming into his second, third year in college compared to a receiver coming into his first year in college. Even though they may not have 0 snaps each, one has the experience of the practice at the collegiate level. That makes a difference. That makes a difference because you're no longer playing against high school kids at practice. You're no longer playing against high school kids in games. You are now playing with people that are good enough to be playing at a Division I collegiate level. So that also makes a difference. And again, looking at the receiver room for Miami this year, obviously we lost a lot of pieces. Xavier Restrepo, Elijah Arroyo, Williams. We lost Jacoby George. But it's going to be interesting how CJ Daniels and the rest of this receiving core responds to that.
Yeah, and I'm actually pretty excited for it. They do have a lot to prove. Let's be honest, that's one of the bigger question marks going into this season and this game specifically, because Notre Dame's defense is stout. They have a really good defense. They have a couple of fantastic corners. And I just have to believe that Shannon Dawson is going to draw up some plays that gets Beck comfortable, that gets these receivers and tight ends comfortable early in this game. And the fact that, they can kind of lean on that run game a little bit when needed. With the great wall of Mirabal, Fletcher, Jordan Lyle. Yeah. Maybe you have to bring in Brown in short yardage situations to transfer from North Dakota State. But the receiver definitely, I don't deny that. When Notre Dame's trying to engage back and forth with some banter online, the first thing they bring up is Carson Beck throwing to receivers that he hasn't practiced with a whole lot. And that is worrisome. But at the end of the day, we just kind of have to see how the game goes.
Now, I also got to say this. Notre Dame has not the best passing game. They don't use it a lot. Last season, their leading receiver had just under 600 yards. They did not have a single 1,000-yard receiver. Their leading receiver was Jaden Greathouse. He is now a junior. He had 42 receptions for 592 yards and 4 touchdowns, which is not great.
Their quarterback ran the football all the time. Riley Leonard was, I believe, their second leading rusher and almost had 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
So that was a big part of their offense last season. So it's just another reason why it will be so interesting to see how they run it with C.J. Carr back there instead of Riley Leonard.
I mean, people say, yes, the scheme changes based on coordinator, but it also changes based on who's at the helm, who's at the quarterback position. If you're going to have a guy that could throw the ball deep, you might switch to more of an air raid style offense compared to a guy who can't really throw the ball but is a very good runner. You're going to have more of a run offense. So it's going to be very interesting how Notre Dame's offense changes this season compared to last season's, which was very run heavy and ended up taking them to the national title.
Yeah, and let's also not forget that Miami's coming in with a new defensive coordinator, but so is Notre Dame. So even though they have a lot of guys that have played together, so they don't have a ton of transfers, it's still a new defense at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So how are they going to look coming in game one in a hostile environment? Both teams have some major questions going into this one. And we're going to find out. They're going to get answered here in a couple days.
So this game will be a very, very run-heavy game. And I think the difference in this game will be the air offense. The offense through the air. I think talent-wise, Beck has Carr beat in that department with talent and experience. I do think Carson Beck is one of the most talented quarterbacks in college football. And he has the experience too. So the question again, is the chemistry going to be there? And I think it will. I do think that there is enough time. I do think that there is... Look, if you come to the University of Miami, you come for one reason. You come to win. You don't come because it's the city of Miami, although you may. But you don't. You come here to win. You come here to win football games. You come here to bring back the U. Everyone wants to be that guy saying, I brought the U back. I did it.
Yep.
I did it. So, you come here to win football games. And all of those, I think they all connect in that fashion. That they connect in the fact that they all want to win. And they'll do whatever it takes. They'll do whatever it takes. They'll sacrifice themselves or do whatever they need to do to win.
Yeah, and I think that it will be key, in my opinion, for Miami to get a bit of an early lead. And if you can factor that in with a poor start from C.J. Carr and then a routing environment, yeah, I'm not predicting a blowout, but I think that could be catastrophic for Notre Dame at the beginning of the game. They kind of go into panic mode. Again, Beck is not going to be rattled. He's played in big-time environments.
It's been a national championship
for him. But still, I just mean the jitters, right? Like, you go in, it's a big-time game, very, big expectations on you. And if they get down early, it could be bad for them.
I mean, it could be very much a repeat of what happened in 2017. Not saying it will be, but that's how it started.
I'm not predicting that.
Not predicting that. But that's how 2017 started at the end of the day. We started very well. The defense played well. We had multiple turnovers, and then Ian Book had to come in. And then we continued to blow them out. That's what happened 7 years ago. No, longer. Damn. 8 years ago. Damn, I'm getting old.
And I really think special teams is going to be a big part of this game. They have a new kicker they picked up from North Carolina. Miami has a new kicker, and now we don't even know if he's going to be the starter or not based on today's press conference. Mario Cristobal was discussing, I believe, Burt Auburn, the transfer from Texas, and Carter Davis, the FAU transfer. And, they were saying that it's not been decided yet. So, special teams could be big if Keelan Marion can provide good field position for Miami off of the kickoffs, assuming that he's one of the guys back there. I think special teams could be very, very important in this one.
And look, I support all the guys at Miami. Was not the happiest with the Brett Auburn transfer, especially after that Texas-Arizona State game. That one
he had a rough time from the 40 to 49. He's like 6 of 12. He's 50%, and he's 0 of 2 from 50 plus. So, if it is Burt, we love him. He's a Miami Hurricane. But you are holding your breath if he needs to kick a field goal from 48 yards to win this football game.
I'm pulling a Michael Penix if that happens. If we have to kick a 56-yarder, I'm turning away. I'm pulling a Michael Penix. I won't believe, but I'm turning away. I'm pulling a Michael Penix. But special teams will be very important, and again, this game is going to be decided very early on in the fact that how does C.J. Carr adjust to the college game? How does he adjust? Does he adjust quickly? Does he take longer? Because that's Miami's biggest advantage in this game, is playing against a freshman quarterback. That is what they have. Obviously, he has not played a snap of college ball. So he does not know those environments and what it's like to play like in those. Beck does. But it will come down to, will he make mistakes at the beginning? Will he adjust quickly to the college game?
And can Miami capitalize on those mistakes? Right, if he throws a pick six, or not pick six, excuse me, that's what we would hope it would be. I was going to say if he throws an interception, can Miami turn that into points?
Yeah.
Not waste those drives.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to be a very interesting game. I think I finally, after thinking about it, have my score prediction for this game. I'm going to do the call-in show afterwards, and this is going to be the exact same score. I got Miami winning 34 to 21.
Okay.
My camera's reversed, but 34-21, it'll come on the screen right here. But it's going to be
Notre Dame is like a 2.5 point favorite.
So even Vegas thinks it's a toss-up. Like Notre Dame, this is a very interesting game because, and in my opinion, very interesting season because a lot of the star players from last season left to the draft. Think about it, all the Heisman candidates were gone. The two biggest players that remain were two freshmen from last season, two receivers. You don't have any quarterbacks that really were stars last season. remaining, besides maybe Carson Beck, who I would have considered a big quarterback, but not one of the top 5 last season. I would have put Riley Leonard, Will Howard, Dylan Gabriel, Shador, and Cam over him. So it really comes down to that factor of who will capitalize on the mistakes of the other. That's the key to victory in this game overall. Because the run game will be important, but both teams have a very strong front 7 that will be able to stop the run at least a little bit. So it really comes down to who can make the big plays and who can capitalize on the other's mistakes. And the big plays happen capitalizing on someone else's mistakes.
And I don't have a score prediction yet for you or the viewers, but I will at least say that I think this game will be somewhat close.
Yeah.
I'm thinking within 7 to 10 points, but I am currently leaning Miami.
Yeah,
heavily.
Your early season prediction did say Miami, so hope that one doesn't change, Coop.
Yeah, I'm leaning the orange and green, man. I think that they can get it done at Hard Rock, but I think that it's going to be a hard-fought game. I think there's going to be ups and downs. I don't think that it's going to be pretty the entire time, but let's just keep in mind, not to put a built-in excuse here, it's not the end of the world for Miami if they lose this, and the same goes for Notre Dame.
Miami stays in the top 15 with a loss.
Goes on to have a pretty successful season.
Look, and I if you already saw my season prediction video, I have Miami winning this game and the rest until SMU, spoiler alert, which I do think will be a very tough game for Miami. But I really do think, even with a loss here, we may go win the rest of these games and go 10-2 again. And I'd be fine with that. Because that would still be an improvement over last year. That would be at least a couple of wins over ranked teams that we did not have last year. We did not have that proof of how good we are last season. So even though...
Just give me more conference wins.
Yeah.
We don't need 2 ACC losses. 1 at a minimum.
Yeah.
Ideally none.
Ideally none, exactly. Look, we don't have the hardest ACC schedule. We don't have Clemson on our thing. That would have definitely been predictable loss for me. That Clemson team is very scary. But yeah, that's more or less it. Like, this comes down to the season doesn't rely on this game. It's not a Week 12 game deciding the playoffs, deciding the ACC championship. It's not a semifinal game. It's not a national championship game. It's Week 1. And you learn from your mistakes in Week 1. I mean, again, sorry to bring Oregon into this, but look at them last year. They went from being a team that almost lost to an FCS school to the number 1 offense in the league. Like, you learn from those Week 1 mistakes. It's not set in stone. What you do in Week 1 is the rest of your season. And you can't look at someone's first game to then say they're going to be like this the rest of the season. Because even though football is still played in between in practice, it's different. That's part of the reason I think the CFP is kind of broken with the bye weeks. You have too long of a time off. You have 3 weeks off and you don't play any games in between that. You're going to be rusty. So at the end of the day, as soon as you get back, the rust will start to come off, but it's going to be there. So can Miami get it off quickly enough? Will Notre Dame get it off quickly? It's going to be interesting to see. This game is going to be so hype. I will be at the game, so I am excited to be there. I am going to be bleeding orange and green because the Ducks played the day before, so I'm fine. So, again, guys, thank you so much for watching. A link to Coop's channel will be in the description down below and in the cards. But yeah, as I always say, I bleed orange and green and yellow, and daytime out.